Okay, let's unpack this. That smell of cocoa, right? It's everywhere. Your coffee, maybe a fancy dessert, that chocolate bar you grab. We usually just, enjoy it. But have you ever stopped to think about just how big the world of cocoa really is? Today, we're diving into the global cocoa market. We're looking at a really detailed market research report. Gives us this great view of sales trends, where things are headed, growth rates, all broken down by region and country. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is how these numbers, they actually tell a story of global tastes, economic shifts. Our mission for you today, to cut through all that raw data, we want to pull out the key insights, the really important nuggets. This deep dive, well, it's going to reveal some surprises, I think, where the market's booming, where it's maybe slowing down a bit, and crucially, what these trends might mean for, the wider economy and maybe even what you find on the shelves.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the big picture, the overall global market. And when we talk sales revenue, we mean the total cash spent on cocoa products worldwide. And it's definitely a sweet growth story. Back in 2021, the market was already huge. We're talking over $13 billion. dollars.
13 billion, that's substantial.
Right. And it's not stopping. Projections show it climbing past 15.6 billion by 2025. And then looking further out to 2033, it's expected to reach over $22.6 billion, dollars,
Wow.
which gives us a global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of about 4.71%.
And that CAGR is important, right? Because it smooths out the yearly bumps and shows the underlying trend.
Exactly. It gives you that steady average picture. And this robust growth, it's not just about people eating more chocolate bars, though. That's part of it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source mentions something key. It's the expanding applications. Think beyond confectionery. Cocoa is turning up in protein shakes, health drinks, even cosmetics. Cocoa butter,
Oh, right. High-end natural cosmetics. I've seen that.
Precisely. It's tapping into these health and beauty trends. So it's becoming this really versatile commodity more than ever before.
Okay, that makes sense. Now here's where it gets really interesting, I think, as we zoom in on the continents. Let's start with North America, a major player, obviously. In 2021, this region brought in over $5.4 billion.
Big numbers.
And it's set to grow quite a bit, nearly $9 billion projected by 2033. That's an average annual growth, the TAGR, of just over 4.2%. The U.S., naturally, is a huge slice of that pie, projected over $5.5 billion by 2033.
Makes sense.
Canada, also showing strong growth. But the real standout, according to this report, is Mexico.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's showcasing the highest growth in North America, a CAGR of over 5.5%, almost 5.6%.
Mexico's surge, well, that's quite revealing, isn't it? It points to something changing in that North American dynamic. While the U.S. is the biggest market by sheer volume, the report suggests Mexico's faster growth comes from a couple of things. A growing middle class, maybe seeking more premium, perhaps artisanal cocoa. Things with a local flavor.
Right, maybe more craft chocolate.
Could be.
Huh.
Plus, a push from their own confectionery companies expanding into new cities. So it's not just about the biggest player anymore. The market's diversifying.
Diversification, yeah, that's a great point. And speaking of diverse markets, let's pivot over to Europe. So Europe saw sales over $3.5 billion back in 2021. It's projected to near $6 billion by 2033. The CAGR there is just under 4.4%. So solid growth, but maybe not quite as fast as some other places.
Okay.
But Europe is really a story of contrasts, country by country. You've got the UK showing strong growth, over 5.4% CAGR. Germany, too, nearly 5% CAGR. France is solid as well.
Okay, so strong in the bigger economies.
Generally, yeah. But then you see more modest growth in Italy, just over 3%, and even lower in Spain and Luxembourg. Spain's around 2.8%, Luxembourg even less.
Right, and that raises an important question, doesn't it? Why these big differences within Europe? It seems like a mature market. You'd expect more consistency, maybe.
Yeah, you might think so.
The report hints that places like the UK and Germany might be seeing more innovation, maybe premium products, different formats, and maybe stronger consumer spending, possibly younger people trying new things. Whereas the slower growth in, say, Italy or Spain, maybe it's market saturation or just different traditions around cocoa or, specific economic pressures limiting demand for newer stuff.
So definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation over there.
Not at all.
Okay, that distinction is key. Now, let's shift focus. Let's look at what seem to be the real acceleration lanes, Asia-Pacific and South America. Asia-Pacific is, well, it's surging. The market size was about 2.5 billion in 2021.
Okay.
Projected to basically double, over 5.1 billion by 2033. This region has the highest regional KGR globally, almost 6%.
6%. That's huge.
It really is. China's a big part of that, leading with the CGR over 6.6%. But the absolute star, the standout in Asia, it's India.
India.
Significant growth, projected to hit over $615 million by 2033. And listen to this, 7.842%.
Wow. Nearly 8% annual growth. That's explosive.
It's incredible. Interestingly, the report notes Southeast Asia shows the lowest growth in that region.
But focusing on India, that dynamism, especially that explosive growth, it's more than just significant. It feels like a potential game changer for the whole global market.
How so?
Well, historically, India wasn't a massive cocoa consumer, relatively speaking. But the report points to this perfect storm of factors. You've got rising incomes, especially among younger people, aggressive marketing from the big international brands, and maybe most interesting, cocoa getting integrated into traditional Indian sweets and desserts.
Ah, like a fusion thing?
Exactly. It suggests a kind of deeper cultural adoption that could really sustain this growth long term. It's fascinating.
It really is. And that growth wave isn't just in Asia. Let's swing over to South America, another region showing some real energy. Market size there was just over 600 million in 2021.
Smaller base, but growing.
Yeah. Projected to cross 1.1 billion by 2033. That's a healthy CAGR of just over 5%. Brazil leads the region in overall size, naturally, but Colombia, showing even stronger growth, a CAGR of 6.8%.
Colombia, too. So Mexico, India, Colombia. Seeing some really high growth figures in these emerging economies.
Exactly. Really dynamic shifts happening. Okay, moving on, let's look at the Middle East. We're seeing diverse trajectories here, too. Cocoa revenues were just under $500 million in 2021. They're projected to reach over $927 million by 2033. That gives it a strong CAGR, over 5.3%.
Solid growth there as well.
Yeah. And within the region, Saudi Arabia really stands out. Highest growth there with a CAGR over 5.8%. The UAE is also showing strong growth, around 5.6%.
That strong growth in the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia and the UAE, is quite notable. The report suggests, well, it could be linked to their rapid economic development, more people moving to cities, and maybe a growing case for premium imported foods as incomes rise. As the economies diversify, consumer habits shift.
Right. People have more disposable income. They try new things. Makes sense.
Exactly, including products like cocoa.
Okay, finally, let's round out our regional tour with Africa. Africa's sales revenue was just over 328 million in 2021, projected to reach about 502 million by 2033. Now, this gives it a CAGR of just over 3.1%.
Okay, to 3.1%.
Which is the lowest regional CAGR globally. And the report also notes Nigeria, for instance, showing even lower growth within Africa.
Right, and connecting that to the bigger picture, it's interesting, isn't it? Africa's overall slower consumption growth compared to other emerging markets.
Yeah.
Especially because Africa is absolutely central to cocoa production. Ivory Coast, Ghana, they dominate global supply.
Yeah, that seems like a paradox. Huge production, lower consumption growth.
It does. But the report suggests it's less about people not wanting cocoa products. It's likely more about challenges, Right. Things like domestic processing capacity, getting finished goods distributed effectively across vast areas, and maybe the per-person purchasing power for those finished chocolate bars or drinks. It's a complex situation on the ground.
I see. So, production giant, but the internal consumer market is developing more slowly.
Seems to be the picture painted by these numbers, yeah.
Okay. So let's try and pull this all together. Our deep dive into the global cocoa market, it really shows this story of remarkably strong overall growth, doesn't it? Projected to blow past that $22.6 billion mark by 2033. That's a huge milestone.
Definitely.
We've seen this incredible, almost, explosive expansion in Asia-Pacific, India really leading that charge. Strong growth in South America, too, especially Colombia and Mexico showing impressive numbers. And even the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia out front, showing significant upward trends, likely driven by those unique economic factors we talked about.
So the big question then becomes, what does all this actually mean for you listening as a consumer, or for businesses trying to figure out future trends? It raises this really important point, I think. Given these big shifts in regional growth that surge in Asia, the dynamism in South America, how might the types of cocoa products people eat, how consumption habits evolve globally?
How might that change in the next decade?
Are we going to see completely new innovations, maybe things driven by the specific tastes or demands in India or Colombia, perhaps stuff that's less about the traditional chocolate bar and more about functional uses or culturally inspired applications? Or will the established markets in, say, Europe and North America continue to be the main drivers of innovation? It's definitely something to chew on.